Although we don't get to witness the conversation Greg and Ruby shared on Brooding Hill, due to the Steven-centric perspective of the show, we still get a decent impression of what it was like.
Well, I fell in love with Rose Quartz, and she fell in love with Mr. Universe. Sure, she never told me she used to be Pink Diamond, but I never told her I used to be Gregory DeMayo.
You can tell from Greg's expression that the news did have an effect on him, but his love for Rose Quartz remains unchanged. For Greg, the past is already behind, and it's the present and future that matters. This was his outlook throughout the course of his relationship with Rose as well, and he's explained this to Steven before when Steven asked him about Pink Diamond in the episode Steven's Dream.
There were some things your mom didn't like to talk about. I never pressed her for details. I think she felt like she had to confess everything to me, but I told her, the past is the past. All that matters to me is who you are now.
I personally feel like Greg is more concerned about how the other crystal gems are handling the news rather than anything else. Look how intent his gaze is when Ruby describes her current feelings. Greg is a really awesome, laid-back, and wise sage of a dad, and I love how genuinely supportive he always is. Greg easily gets my vote for best emotional coach in the series. Ruby went to the perfect person to work through her feelings and put things into perspective. I loved how after Ruby said she was okay, Amethyst comes into the frame with a smug smile. After her dramatic speech in the prior episode, she must be feeling pretty dang content that Steven doesn't have to solve another person's problem after all. Ruby isn't just doing okay, she even becomes excited at the prospect of finally living for herself, something she never really had the chance to do before. I was honestly rather stunned by this development in the best of ways.
We really did stay Garnet because Rose told us we were the answer.
Okay, so wow. All the way back when the episode The Answer first came out, I thought it was premature to label Garnet at the time as a representation of love. Let me refer to a part of my review of The Answer to elaborate.
Lastly, Garnet was called love. I get it. It's sweet, it's mushy, it's cute. But can we reference Garnet's own quote about love? Yeah, that time component wasn't there. And then the work? I mean, sacrifices were made, sure, but there hasn't yet been actual work put toward maintaining the relationship per se. And certainly, Ruby and Sapphire do not yet know each other deeply. I think it's simply too early to call Garnet love this early into her existence, and it was a premature move on the part of the Crewniverse.
Well, this episode recontextualizes The Answer into something brilliant, and reframes the events in such a way that my criticism of the past is no longer even applicable. The Answer is now far less sweet and sappy than it once was, now that we have an idea about what Rose Quartz was actually thinking by giving Garnet such a label. What Garnet had done was retroactively apply her own spin onto what Rose had told her and revised The Answer as being love after Ruby and Sapphire's relationship had time to blossom into a legitimate love for one another. Love was the personal answer Garnet took from her relationship. For Rose, for Pink Diamond, Garnet's existence was symbolic. It was a call to action.
Rose wanted to fight for her. She wanted to fight for gems.
Garnet was the answer for what Pink Diamond's next goal for Earth would be, for Earth to be a place where gems can live free of the rigid structure placed on them by Homeworld, a place where gems could individualize and forge their own futures, a world where gems could be free. Pink Diamond did not see Garnet as an answer for Ruby and Sapphire's questions. She saw Garnet as the answer for her own questions. While Pink did have a noble vision and goal, in this moment, Pink Diamond was not looking at Garnet as her own person. She was looking at her as an icon, as an idol.
No more questions. Don't ever question this. You already are the answer.
I don't know about all of you, but for me, retrospectively watching Rose say,
"Don't ever question this,"
that sends nervous chills down my spine. It sounds so self-absorbed and sinister, even. Rose told Garnet not to think about herself. And now, Ruby is finally doing just that.
We really did stay Garnet because Rose told us we were the answer. It's my first time really thinking about it. It's my first time really thinking about me.
And that's powerful. That really resonated with me. Ruby finally trying to go out and discover herself, to actualize her own individuality, which may have been suppressed by somebody who ironically desired for Gems to achieve that very goal. Greg is fully supportive of Ruby, Amethyst doesn't care since she sees it as none of her business, and Steven is devastated that his favorite ship might potentially never raise its sails again, and is about to give in to his knee-jerk immaturity, but best dad Greg is there to sort the boy out.
Relax, kiddo. This could be what she needs.
But Dad, what if they never form Garnet again? We gotta get them back together.
Well, that's not our call to make. Ruby's gotta want that for herself.
Yep, Steven was nearly about to do what his mother did thousands of years ago, convince Ruby to stay Garnet due to his desires rather than Garnet's. Like mother, like son, I guess. But Steven is still learning and growing, and luckily Greg is there to be a good parent. With everybody's support in hand, Ruby sets out on her quest for emotional growth.
Why would she be a cowboy?
I enjoyed the Ruby Rider portion of this episode way more than I expected to. Steven Universe has plenty of montages that include fluff hijinks. We had one just last episode. But Ruby Rider packs a very catchy tune and a change of scenery. We've had so many montages take place in Beach City that they tend to feel bland for me at this point. But chasing off a nonplussed rattlesnake feels plenty fresh enough to be fun. That night, after Steven sees how much fun Ruby has had, he apologizes.
I'm sorry I tried to push you back into being Garnet.
And I think we all knew at that point what was about to happen.
I kept thinking about how much more fun I'd have if I were with her.
While it's predictable, and I can see how some people might think it's a bit of a cop-out, I don't think it's a bad move. Ruby choosing to go solo for a while in the heat of the moment to understand herself better by no means meant Ruby would decide she's content that way forever. Close couples with healthy relationships can still run into friction over the years and break up, even if they felt perfect for one another, but Ruby and Sapphire do not have a struggling relationship. They did have a fight, and Ruby wanted to think over her own needs and how their relationship started, but their love for each other remains stronger than... you? That joke didn't really work. Besides, every couple needs a little time where they're apart from one another to pursue their own individual interests. Ruby and Sapphire are literally almost never apart. They were long overdue for a brief break, if you ask me. I wouldn't be surprised if after this point they both feel like they need to unfuse every now and then just to be their own gems. While Ruby wants to become Garnet again, she doesn't want the circumstance behind their fusion to stay the same.
I just don't want it to feel like we're going back to how things used to be, back when someone else told us to be together. I want it to feel different.
Steven proposes that Ruby propose a proposal. A marriage proposal. Yeah, these two gay space rocks are getting hitched. Ruby remains in her cowboy motif for the proposal, and while immensely cheesy, it was also still really sweet and tender and fun. During this proposal, Ruby stresses twice how important it is for them to be Garnet of their own volition.
Someone else told us we were the answer, but I don't believe that anymore. At least, not till I hear it from you. This time, being Garnet will be our decision. What do you say?
It's abundantly clear just how much Ruby views what Rose said about them being the answer as a foundation to her identity. Having the truth come out about Rose shattered this foundation for Ruby, and thus led to her feeling empty, like something was missing inside her. She tried to fill that emptiness by venturing out into the world as a singular gem, but that wasn't her problem. What Ruby needed was to reframe her identity as Garnet on her own terms. Well, her and Sapphire's terms together. It needs to be a mutual decision, after all. The marriage proposal is a grand enough gesture to achieve just that. The question handles some complex emotional material, and while the pace of Ruby's introspective journey was pretty quick and the presentation was as cartoony as ever, I think Steven Universe handled the subject matter with excellent grace and nuance. I really loved this episode. Also, Amethyst was a horse.
Psst, it's me. I'm a horse.
And Horse Amethyst is best Amethyst. Thank you for watching this video, everyone. I have a Patreon account if you're interested in supporting me. I livestream on Twitch, and feel free to follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with my life and news and updates about this channel. I hope to see you as I continue discussing my thoughts on the rest of this Steven Bomb.